Hey, it's Monday night. You ready? East Lansing, Michigan. It's Monday night in East Lansing. Jim Comparoni, publisher, SpartanMag.com for the next hour or so, however long we're here, however much fun we're having. We will be here talking Michigan State football, talking about Michigan State's 51-17 victory over Western Michigan on Saturday night at Spartan Stadium. Michigan State ranked number 19 in the country. We will see if that ranking improves at all with the new rankings. Rankings don't mean a whole lot, except that they do at the end of the year if you are trying to promote your program as having X number of top 20 finishes in X number of years or X number of top 10 finishes. That's when rankings start to matter. Hey, we've got some questions that have already rolled in from our message board at SpartanMag.com, the Underground Bunker message board, which is the daily narrative. The church of what's happening now on Michigan State sports is the Underground Bunker message board at SpartanMag.com. Thank you to all the maggers that are out there around the world posting questions, talking, discussing, making friends, making enemies. Sometimes I have to go in there and separate people a little bit. It's a lot of fun though. We're here at the YouTube channel. If you are chiming in right now, go ahead and let's get some questions going, and I'll check those out in a minute. But first of all, let's go right to the mailbag. About an hour ago at the Underground Bunker message board, I asked maggers to post any questions that they had coming out of Michigan State's 2-0 start that we would entertain here at the weekly Monday night Spartan Mag live chat session. It's a live chat session. It's like some of the old chat sessions, except this time I'm talking in real time rather than typing, which is more efficient, although you have to look at my ugly face, which is not a good thing. But we got to deal with it. It's football season. We're tough. We can handle it, right? First question from the mailbag. Mike BOV out of Granville, Michigan. Thanks for posting, Mike. You're a frequent poster at SpartanMag.com. We appreciate that. He asks, how much upside do I see from CJ Hayes? Excuse me. CJ Hayes, wide receiver. He runs like Mays, but he hits like, staying PG here. CJ Hayes, 6'1", 206 out of Bowling Green, Kentucky. Came to Michigan State as a 3-star recruit. Started in place of Jalen Naylor against Western Michigan on Saturday night. Jalen Naylor, of course, out for an extended period of time with a lower body injury. And CJ Hayes got the start, got a lot of snaps. 3 catches, 31 yards. Did a pretty good job. Went to him on a 3rd down play, as a matter of fact. You know, when he came out of Bowling Green, Kentucky, 3-star guy, ranked in the top 10 in Kentucky. Not a great state for talent, but Michigan State went down there and got him. Had offers from Illinois, Minnesota, Nebraska, Maryland, Purdue, Syracuse, Virginia, Army, Air Force. Smart guy, academic, all Big Ten. Played in 8 games last year, had a 13-yard catch against Northwestern, had like 30 snaps against Penn State when all those injuries hit against Penn State. As a matter of fact, Brian Lewerke remembers the game-winning drive or certain details of that of crunch time at Penn State. He said, you know, players were getting injured. Felton Davis was injured late in that game, and he remembers, Lewerke remembers coming to the line of scrimmage after the huddle and substitutions taking place and not knowing who his wide receivers were. And looking out there and saying, okay, CJ Hayes is on the field. Okay, Larice Nelson's on the field. Then Larice got hurt that day also. And they won that game in a hostile environment against a highly ranked Penn State team with Lewerke literally going to the line of scrimmage not knowing who was on the field with him. Because a quarterback in a clutch situation wants to go to his go-to receiver, which was Felton Davis. He was out. Lewerke, I don't know if he gets enough credit for what they did that day, winning at Penn State. CJ Hayes played a lot that game, but that was the most he had ever played until Saturday night against Western Michigan. 3 catches, 31 yards. I'll get back to the root question here in a moment, but he would have had more yardage, but he lost a couple of yards on a bubble screen. On that one, that was an RPO, and Lewerke was off target. They were setting up a bubble over there. CJ Hayes had to dive back another 1.5 yards and caught it awkwardly, and then the angle of the bubble screen was foiled up and ended up losing yardage on that one. One of the few mistakes Lewerke made, just being inaccurate on that one. As far as some impressive stuff he did, CJ Hayes, there was a 3rd and 4 situation on Michigan State's second touchdown drive. Scored 7-0. Michigan State's pace of play is good, trying to take control of the game. And they go to one of their 3rd down script plays, and it ends up going to CJ Hayes. It's a snag concept with a mini curl, a flat, and a corner. And he was the curl at 4 yards. made the catch, and the read just went to him. It's the safest, shortest pass. Michigan State did a really good job formationing that one in 3rd and 4 because to the defense was skewed to the other side. There were 2 wideouts over there, maybe 1. It looked like there'd be more of a pass threat over there. Michigan State very subtly had a tight end to the right, an H to the left, and a running back. I think the H went in motion, and it turns out that all 3 receivers went this way. When at pre-snap, it looked like the receivers were over there. The coverage was skewed over there. They subtly created a triangle over here, curl, flat, corner, and ended up getting a 2-on-1 on one of the edge defenders. He went to the flat, so they threw it to the curl, caught it at 4 yards, 5 yards. What I liked about that is that he turned yards after contact, broke 2 or 3 tackles. You might remember C.J. Hayes dragging a couple guys. Big guy, he was listed at 6'3" as a recruit. He's actually about 6'1.5". Showed some of that strength there. 22 yards on that play. A little 3rd down, safe curl route, and ends up 22 yards. And they went to him a little bit after that, I think on a bubble, and he might have broken a tackle on that one also. Okay, that was a zone read. That was on the 3rd touchdown drive. Michigan State's up 14-0. They're driving. Michigan State runs a zone read. Brian Lewerke, option the defensive end. Lewerke can keep it. He can run it. We know he can run, right? Basic zone read. Corner, who's covering C.J. Hayes, leaves C.J. Hayes to take the quarterback. So he leaves C.J. Hayes. Lewerke with a little late pass out to C.J. Hayes, gains of 11 out in the flat. Brand new stuff. We've seen some other teams around the country do things like that. Lewerke with his quickness, his experience, his creativity, going to C.J. Hayes, trusting him. C.J. Hayes plows forward, gets 11 yards. That was a new wrinkle. C.J. Hayes was instrumental in Michigan State jumping out to that 21-0 lead. You guys might remember all that. I find that I forget that stuff until I go back and watch it again. And you go back and see which players actually had good, subtle, or big moments at times that you may have forgotten. C.J. Hayes was one of them. And so the question was, what do I see from Mike BOV? The question is, what do I see for his upside long term? That's a hard question. We can see right now that he's a pretty good, I'm going to knock that thing off, I'm not careful, a good possession receiver, right? He showed that, can break some tackles, which is exciting. He's got to be able to block, I would think. I've not really zoned in real closely to watch how he blocked in this game. I'll go back over it again, and I'll report on the underground bunker when I see that. I still haven't gone over the whole thing. Had a busy day yesterday, busy morning, busy afternoon. Still going through it. It takes me several hours to go through it. But looking at his frame and how difficult he was to tackle, I got to believe he can be a plus blocker at the wide receiver position, and they need that. Naylor missed a block or two in the opening week, so that helps get him on the field. That helps him sustain drives and be a complement to the offense. What we have not seen from C.J. Hayes, and I don't know if he can do it or not, is, threaten the deep middle on a deep post. On a slant, can he catch it and go? Can he accelerate through a catch and turn on some speed? We haven't seen that. I'm not saying that he can't. I don't know that he can't. Once we see that, we can maybe better gauge what his ceiling of potential is. Right now, not sure. If he has that speed and extra gear there, then why can't he become a B.J. Cunningham type in a couple of years? Right now, I have to wait and see. Right now, he's filling in as a starter, and after one game, he certainly looked like he's got some goods that they can certainly use. So good question there from Mike BOV. Let me check the top chat here at the YouTube channel. Appreciate everybody checking in. Let's make a habit of it on Mondays. Well, I think you guys might be a little in better moods this season. As long as Michigan State can stay healthy, might win some games. They always win some games, right? But you guys are used to them winning a lot of games. We'll see. Rob South says, what's up, fellas? Rob South making it 3 in a row. He is the Lou Gehrig or the Cal Ripken of the SpartanMag live chats. He's been to every one of them. Adam Burke, he needs an updated Great Lakes power rankings. I'll have to check some statistics on that. We've got to wait and see how the walleye are doing in Saginaw Bay. I heard something about that on Duran Martinez's show this week, and I need to post a link about that. Some troubling things going on in the capital in my opinion. I don't do anything political, but fishing and wildlife is something that I might comment or help bring some attention to some things. That might take some people off. I apologize about that, but I don't know. Maybe I've spoken too much about that already, but the walleye and the Saginaw Bay, we got to keep an eye on that. John G. Hey, Jim. Martian Mambo here from the board. He's in Mason, Michigan. Thanks for checking in, John G. Getting the roll call going. Rob South. Did Hayward get into the game after the fumble? I didn't see him. I don't think he did. I think Hayward did not return to the game after that. Nice message that they sent to him on that one. Hey, it's a competitive situation. Ladarius Jefferson, good around the goal line. On that fumble, it was poked out earlier, but you probably saw the replay. He had the ball out away from his body. They talk about, 7 points of pressure, points of contact to prevent fumbles. He didn't have it. He had it out away from his body. That may have led to the fumble eventually. I tell you what, last year I remember seeing him fumble in practice during some Oklahomas. That was when he was still brand new to the running back position. Also, 2 weeks ago, prior to the first game, when he came out to do interviews, I noticed that he had a football with him. Good kid, engaging kid, doing all he can. He had a football in his hand while he was doing interviews and finished the interviews and went to the locker room carrying that football. That's usually quite often something coaches do with skill position players. Carry a football to class, carry a football everywhere. That's a way to become better with ball security. It's an old adage. I don't know which coach invented that or popularized it, but it's been around for a long time. When I saw him walking, doing his interviews, holding a football, and leaving with a football, the thought crossed my mind, he's doing that because they're trying to improve ball security, which makes me wonder about ball security. Makes me wonder about what fumbles he may have had in practices. Then we saw that one in the game, and we didn't see him again in the game. He had some good moments, a good run play. In the second quarter, they might have been up 14-0 or 21-0 at that point. Second quarter, they were up 21-0. So had a good 11-yarder. We'll be breaking that one down on the Underground Bunker message board. I already shot the video for the film room video for that. I just haven't edited it and posted it yet. On that one, Western Michigan had a gap error on that one. Someone asked me who made a good play on that. Center, Matt Allen, and let's see, was it Campbell? I can't remember if it was the left guard or right guard. They had a good double team against McCabe, knocked him off 2 yards, and that's what it was. Carrick. It was the Carrick. It was Carrick and Allen double team. Good double team there. That sprung Hayward for a gain of 11. Hayward also had a really good blitz pickup on a third down completion to Cody White, I think for the second touchdown drive. So Hayward doing some good things there. Also had a catch on a double slant on a third down to extend a drive. So Hayward wasn't all bad, but a message was definitely sent in that situation. Let's see here. Brian V. The highlight of my week, SpartanMag Live. Thanks, Brian V. My highlight too. A lot of fun. Brian Shilaki. With my last name, I should be able to pronounce that, right? Shilachi. Anyway, basking in the glow of the best offensive performance in recent memory. 51 points, the most points they've had since 2015. Brian Lewerke, if you saw our post-game interview in the article, I did the 321 article at SpartanMag.com. Lewerke it was pointed out to Brian Lewerke that it was the most points Michigan State had scored since 2015. And Lewerke's response was, that's kind of depressing, actually. He said it with a smile on his face, but he didn't take it badly, but to him it was kind of shameful that they had not exceeded 50 points in the past 2 seasons. Last season, all kinds of problems, of course. But Lewerke's excited to be a part of this offense, a modern offense, a revamped offense, mainstream offense, and they looked good, certainly, against Western Michigan. Seth Foreman loved the new format. I don't know what format you're talking about. Michigan State's offense or the format? I don't know. Mr. Wake Up USA, regarding the offense, was it legitimate? Did we get lucky? Do we need to stay cautious? Cautiously optimistic, I would say. And there's some other questions that pertain to that theme here in the mailbag. including question number 2 from the mailbag. So let's go back to the mailbag. Berkia 1 from Sykesville, Maryland. Terrapins making noise this year, aren't they? Says, how much of Michigan State's offensive production was due to MSU's improvement and how much was due to playing against a Western Michigan defense? So that question dovetails with what Joe Jarvie just asked. Well, Michigan State against Western Michigan, 582 yards of total offense, 251 on the ground, 331 through the air when you count the Stewart to Lewerke completion down near the goal line. 582, 192 yards from a freshman running back. Western Michigan is not great on defense. They seem like they're catchers to me in the second level. They're not full tilt. Defensive line was just average. Michigan State's offense is improved, no question about it. It's improved just because right now everybody's healthy. It's improved because they're driven to really prove themselves. Lewerke is. The receivers are. Receivers had a little bit of a fire lit under them after week number 1, and certainly the offensive line did. If they all stay healthy, the offense will be good just because of that. And then it'll be more improved because of they're doing more varied things. I'm not saying that you cannot win the way Michigan State played last year. I think Wisconsin's proving that right now, that they can do it pretty well. But in order to play power football, you've got to have some excellent power tools because it's a difficult way to make headway unless you have a brute strength edge on people, which Georgia has right now, as a matter of fact, and they do a lot of I formation stuff. So it's improved because of all those reasons. Western Michigan, mediocre defense. Michigan State had an edge in the defensive front. There are a couple of mistakes there. Here's another thing that Paul Konendijk and I talked about in the VCast. Great job by Paul Konendijk this weekend. Great job by Corey Robinson chasing down some recruits for an update over there at SpartanMag.com. Great job by all the people at SpartanMag.com. We appreciate all those guys. Konendijk and I were talking about it in the VCast at Spartan Stadium in the press box after the game. One of the reasons Michigan State's offense looked so comfortable was because they were going against Western Michigan. Not only a Western Michigan defense that had inferior talent, but also a Western Michigan defense that plays a structure that is very familiar to Michigan State, very comfortable to Michigan State. Western played a lot of cover 4 quarters like Michigan State, maybe not pressing the corners, maybe off cover 4. When they blitzed, they were doing cover 3, just like Michigan State has for years. So that defense that Michigan State sees in scrimmages, very similar to what Western Michigan trotted out there. And let's say, I think that the opening play when Michigan State went in that deep corner to Darrell Stewart, Western blitzed on that, rotated to a cover 3, and ended up gaining 33 yards on that one. It was ended up being like a smash 7 because the underneath route runner, which was C.J. Hayes, he ran the wrong route, according to Brian Lewerke. He forgot the route or didn't know what to do. So C.J. just kind of ran like a little 6-yard stop. But the corner had to come up and cover him. So when the corner came up, wait a minute, maybe it wasn't. I'm trying to think what they did to rotate behind them. I committed it to memory, but now I've forgotten it already. Anyway, it was when he saw blitz real quickly, he knew where that open window was going to go. And that was just one of many comfortable routes that Michigan State had all day, including the snag to C.J. Hayes. That was a blitz also. It was a blitz, and so they knew on a blitz, Western was going to go deep 3, and there'd be all that space right there. So it was like early, quick decisions. That will not be the case in every game, but it certainly helped the new portions of the offense get off to a roaring start, 21-0 in the first quarter. So, is the offense improved? Yes. Is it always going to look like that? 582 with that kind of balance? 192 from a freshman? No. It's not always going to be that great. It's not always going to be that easy, is it? They'll have good days. They'll have good drives. They will have some explosiveness, but no, it's not always going to be that easy. Also, it's like Tim Lester, Western Michigan's coach, said earlier in the week at the press conference, they only had one game of film to study. And you saw Michigan State was watered down that day for various reasons. Were they really hiding things? No one really knows for sure. Maybe they were. But Western, those things that Michigan State was hitting them with, Western hadn't seen that on film. So that was another reason why that engine was running so well. So do not expect 582 every week. That'd be too good to be true. Mailbag, another question. Question number 3 today. Did I see progress from tight end blocking in week 2? That's from Anton 1999 from Waterford. Yeah, I saw some progress, still not enough. Dotson was good, and I thought Dotson was really good in the first half in the opener. Seibert, pronounced it right that time. I had to think there for a second. Seibert blocking was mediocre last week, a little bit better this time. You saw them put Seibert in that triple stack I, that old Morris Watts formation for the 2 touchdowns with Ladarius Jefferson. The first one, Seibert really went to, I think, the B gap really hard as a lead blocker, trying to create some room or attract defenders. Either way, I don't think he met up with anyone defensively with a chance to really flatten anybody. I don't know if he could do that up front regularly anyway. He might prove me wrong. But on the second one, I didn't see what Seibert did on that one. I've not broken that one down yet. But Dotson's better, not good enough. Seibert, a little better, not good enough. Dotson is maybe good enough as a blocker, functional. But he wants to be better than that, and he's working at it. And he's got a lot of talent. As far as the tight ends, I told you in the pre-snap read that Western Michigan had some tight ends that Michigan State would love to have. That Ricci guy and the Borst guy. Borst, I think he's an Illinois guy. 6'5", 275, and had a downfield touchdown against Monmouth. Big guy, blocks well, runs pretty good. And then Ricci, we told you about him in the pre-snap read beforehand. Showed you some video at SpartanMag.com the morning of the game to watch out for that tight end. And you saw the Western really featured him and did some damage with Ricci. Now, how much of that was Michigan State being unable to match up with the tight end? I don't think that's the case. I think Michigan State was playing a lot of base defense, and the slot area becomes open to that. He was a tight end that would would split out, flank out as a flanker a little bit. That made him a slot receiver. And Michigan State's always been soft on slot receivers if they keep 2 back and play their base zone. On the touchdown, the 4th and 2 touchdown, what was that, a 12-yard pass to Ricci? On that one, Michigan State was in man-to-man. And on that one, Western Michigan ran their version of a snag. A curl, flat, and a corner. And it was the tight end Borst that ran a corner. Again, they did like Michigan State. They were in a run-heavy formation. And it didn't look like it at the time, but they had 3 receivers over to the right as the play developed. Running back, tight end, tight end. And it was a well-designed play. Michigan State was in man-to-man and blitzing. So instead of a curl with Ricci, it was an angle route, but it ends up acting like a curl because he ends up being in the same area. It was an angle route that was shoved a little bit wide because Beasley was the play side defensive end, Drew Beasley, and Beasley kind of read the situation and gave that tight end a little bit of a chuck on his way out, rerouted him a little bit. Smart play by Beasley. He identified it as a problem, but he still had to play his containment, so he rerouted him. So the angle route went even wider, came back. By that time, it's a man-to-man. So Xavier Henderson ends up guarding him, had leverage on him. Good play, on time, accurate, touchdown. Henderson didn't have any linebacker help in the middle because it's man-to-man. Talked about Borst, the tight end, going on the corner. One of the linebackers, probably Bocci, had to go with him. And then the flat route, the running back, the other inside linebacker, Tyreek Thompson, I assume, had to go with him. So the linebackers had gotten run out of the play because Michigan State's playing man-to-man. So now it's a crossing into that empty void. Henderson's behind him. He's got leverage on it. So it was a good play there with a version of a snag concept to a good receiver, 12 yards. Rock, paper, scissors type of thing. If they're in zone, probably would have still completed it for a shorter gain. But credit to Western Michigan, 4th and short, going to the air, making it happen. Let's go back to the chat line here. All right, let's see. I rewound a little bit here and I kind of messed up. All right. All right, Joe Jarvie, with the offense showing signs of life, will it make any difference yet? this year in offensive recruiting with so few spots left open. It cannot hurt. And Michigan State is looking at another wide receiver in Minnesota, quarterbacks. Absolutely. If Michigan State had another year ranked number 115 in the country in total offense, it would have hurt recruiting. And it would have given more fuel to the negative recruiters out there. And Michigan State does face negative recruiting. And Michigan State's offense last year had a hand in that. So at least the haters that recruit against Michigan State won't have that as a weapon, I don't think. So I think the offense is going to be solid this year. It's going to be pretty good, sometimes quite good. All right. Old Tuck. CJ Hayes, similar to Napoleon Outlaw. See, Old Tuck comes in here every week. He talks about these players from 1993, 94, bringing up like Mark Burkmeyer and Vincent Donaldson. No, he's not Napoleon Outlaw. Napoleon Outlaw was a skinny little wide receiver. Wasn't bad. And he had a role in 93, 94. And Saban came to town, and Napoleon Outlaw's role decreased. Meanwhile, Muhsin Muhammad's role increased. 1993, I think Muhsin Muhammad started against Kansas when Glenn Mason was coach of Kansas. That was at Spartan Stadium. Muhsin Muhammad, if I remember right, dropped a pass early in that game. And we didn't really see him ever again until 1995 when Saban came and Muhsin had a couple of legal hassles. Napoleon Outlaw, I think, replaced Muhsin Muhammad and became a starter for the rest of the year in 93. Napoleon Outlaw, Najee Carter, when they went to Memphis to play Louisville in the Liberty Bowl. Outlaw, one of the great names in Michigan State football history, was a solid player, had a promising start to his career, but never lived up to that great name. But a good kid, but he's a slender guy. I think CJ Hayes is bigger, stronger. Corey Robinson answering some questions about recruiting. Appreciate Corey. Seth Foreman with a question. Outlaw with better name. You're right, Seth. Seth asks a question to Corey about recruits. Appreciate that. Joe Jarvie thanks Corey. Guys talking amongst yourselves. I appreciate that. Let's see. Got any more? If you're watching this for the first time, you have no idea who we are. I can just say go check out SpartanMag.com, but you may have already seen that at the beginning. Nobody's joining this halfway through unless you're watching live, so I don't need to keep talking about that. I don't need to go to commercials. We don't even take coffee breaks here. I was going to say bathroom breaks, but that would have been uncouth. All right, Seth Foreman at Rob South saying uniforms are more like Mountain Dew. I can't remember what he said. What did Seth say? I missed his comment. But that was something I wanted to bring up. I wanted to ask you guys what you thought of the uniforms. You know, we saw the pictures of them. When I got to the stadium and saw it, I was a little surprised, a little shocking at first. The pants stuck out to me, that neon pants, whatever, different. Watching it on TV, I kind of like those helmets, that dark green. I don't know about the neon Spartan head, but that dark green, that night green, whatever they call that. That was kind of cool. Now, people flip out about uniforms, but everybody knows in this day and age, they're alternate uniforms. You wear them once, maybe twice, done with them. You don't have to live with them. People get upset about uniforms when someone changes permanently their uniforms. That's not the case here, so I think most people can stomach it. Everybody knows they did it to try to excite recruits for their own players. From what I could tell, the players all liked them. But in the post-game press conference, D'Antonio was not asked about it. From what I heard, where I was around, none of the players were asked about it. I'm sure some were asked about it, but the one thing, how it said state real big across there, I agree with those of you that think state is too passé. I know Michigan State has promoted that state brand, especially in basketball with the script state, Magic Johnson era. That's one thing. State for football, I mean, you watch Mississippi State playing in the end zone, it says Hail State. North Carolina State is state. I understand a lot of you people that think that that's not the best avenue for Michigan State to pursue in terms of athletic branding. I agree with that. The state thing was different. Big letters, bigger than you've ever seen on the front of a football jersey. Here's where it is appropriate for Michigan State football. I think Michigan State back in the 60s when they had Michigan State across the front was one of the first to do that. I don't know if they were the very first, but I've heard that they were, to have the name of the school on the front of a jersey. John L. Smith talked about that when you asked him about his recollections of Michigan State in the 1960s, some of those glory days, and he said he just remembers that Michigan State on the front. Then schools in the Southwest picked up on it. Sooners, Texas, SMU, they started doing a lot of it, but it's not common. In Texas, a lot of those schools copy off each other once anyone does something, they all copy it. Like this, and then everybody else has like this for Texas Tech with that, and then there's Gig-'em, whatever they do for Texas A&M, and then there's like the horned frog thing. So everybody in Texas says they have to have a hand signal because Texas did it. Michigan State, Texas might have been the first, then next thing you know, Baylor's got to do it. Texas Tech has to do it. That's just my observation. I might be wrong about that, but that's my observation about Texas and Texas football and that type of stuff. But speaking of which, got the Cotton Bowl thing right here from the old days. I wanted a Cotton Bowl mini helmet, but they didn't have one. There was not one made. I've been looking. Didn't have one. People in Dallas, the fine people in Dallas, we need Cotton Bowl mini helmets. So State was big in that regard. Seeing something that big like you've never seen before on the front, it's appropriate for Michigan State to do something like that big. I mean, that was obnoxious big, but State, what if it had just been Spartans big? I understand that you couldn't fit as many letters that big if it were Spartans, but why not Spartans as big as you can? That's the route I would have went. You know, that Nike branding campaign that was underway when they were going to change the helmets, when Mark Hollis was okaying the change of the helmet to go along with the changing of the fonts, and the big shice storm that created, and Mark Hollis smartly retracting those plans, retreating from those plans, staying with the current Spartan helmet. Great move. If they would have changed it, that would have been a bad move. And he was right to read the political winds and change on that. But even back then, one of the things the Nike people were saying is that there's not many teams called the Spartans. I know there's San Jose State, but there's not many Spartans. There's one Spartans. So they wanted to really drive home Spartans. So then you started to see Spartans on the basketball jersey. Occasionally on the football jersey, once or twice. But if they would have went Spartans instead of State, that at least would have gone, they would have harkened back to that plan from a few years ago. I'm not sure that the people that put that plan together are still in place or in power or whatever at Nike. But I would have liked to have seen a mock-up of that thing with Spartans. I'm talking too much about those things. All right, other questions. All right, Joe Thoman. What type of defensive front does ASU deploy? Should we expect to go to having difficulty running the ball? Good question. And we had some other questions along those lines on the mailbag over at SpartanMag.com. Let's see who asked it over there. Dayton Spartan out of Dayton, Ohio, obviously. Do you see us struggling against ASU's three-man front like we did against Tulsa? And there was someone else that asked about it. I apologize. I'd like to mention your name here and give you credit. But anyway, Arizona State, like Dayton Spartan mentioned, runs a 30 front. From last year, they'll do a lot of two-gapping, but not as heavy with the two-gapping and as strong as last year. Last year in the pre-snap read, they had a really good nose guard. Played really well in week one, and no one had ever heard of him prior to that. I saw that week one game. I'm like, that guy's a problem. And at that point, Michigan State had question marks at center. Matt Allen did not win the job initially. Tyler Higbee did. History shows Tyler Higbee was a little bit out of position trying to do that. Nothing against Tyler Higbee. He's doing the best he can, but he really had a miserable night against Arizona State, against a very good nose guard. And we said in the pre-snap read that was not a good matchup for Michigan State. And Michigan State had problems in the red zone because of that matchup. Left points on the board. That's why they lost the game. That guy's gone. And looking at some of the people that they have, I've just started looking at them. The nose guard this year, from what I've seen, is a guy named DJ Davidson, number 98, 6'4", 313 pounds. Big guy, unproven, has never really done much, but never really gotten on the field much last year. I think he might have gotten dinged up a little bit at the end of last year, right as he got into the playing rotation. Big guy, seen a few snaps. I've got to watch more, but he certainly is not as good as last year's nose guard. And I think Michigan State's offensive line will be better prepared for that. George Lee is up front, 6'3", 284. He's the senior, had 4 tackles for loss last year. Decent player, active player, nothing dynamic. The other defensive end is a sophomore, 6'2", 284. That's not great size for a 30 front, because on a 30 front, your defensive ends have to play like a 3 technique a lot. They're 2-gapping a lot. They're taking a lot of point of attack at them. 284 is not great size for a 30 front defensive end. He's a sophomore, 4 starts last year. A defensive line, I've got to watch more. Arizona State's defense has been successful this year, holding the first 2 opponents under 10 points each. Those 2 opponents, Kent State, playing in a different time zone in the heat. You know how that is. Kent State's only had like 3 winning seasons in 30 or 40 years, something crazy like that. And one of those winning seasons, I think, is when Saban was playing there with Jack Lambert. Hold on a second. Anyway, and then they played Sacramento State last weekend. I mean, they're a high-scoring FCS team, but still held them below 10. They run pretty well. They had, against Kent State, Arizona State had 16 missed tackles, which is too many. But they've been successful on defense for the most part this year. Now they're playing a Michigan State team. They will have more film than Western Michigan did and better athletes. The defensive front for Arizona State, at first glance, I know it's not as big as Tulsa's. And I don't think it's as good as Tulsa's. They're the defensive front. With that 30, Tulsa was very awkward with the things they did. They were either blitzing wholesale or they were dropping 8. And there was like no in between. And both methods were kind of difficult. It's like facing a real good changeup pitcher if you're hitting, I would imagine. So Arizona State, I've got to look more at the talent in the back 7. But up front, in my opinion, certainly not as strong as Arizona State was last year, and I don't think as strong as Tulsa is on the defensive line. Michigan State was embarrassed by Tulsa's defensive front, in my opinion. D'Antonio got all over them, know who to get on, know who to block, play with toughness. You know how D'Antonio, all the things he said last week. And the team responded, albeit against a middleweight sparring partner in Western Michigan. So now they're facing another 30 front. Michigan State will not have that comfort level that they had against Western Michigan, where the opponent is running the same stuff that they see in practice. They're going to see that 30 front. And like I've said, it seems like Michigan State never runs the ball well against 30 fronts. Whether it's, one exception would be when they, in 2016, the terrible season when Michigan State ran the ball well against Notre Dame. Big lead, Notre Dame came back, Michigan State held on. But 30 fronts, I remember, was it Montana State came in with it, or Northern Colorado with a 30 front? Michigan State kind of stumbled against it. There have been many others. Wisconsin in recent years has played a lot of 30. Big Ten, when Harbaugh first got there, they did a lot of 30 and a 4-3. Less 30 lately, although they ran a 30 against Army. That was just a 1-week thing, I would imagine. They did a few snaps of it against Middle Tennessee State. Maybe Michigan will want to do more 30 by that time if Michigan State does not show a better ability to play against the 30. Oregon played at 30. Michigan State had real good teams those 2 years, and the running game was just okay against Oregon, not so great. Baylor ran a 30, and Langford hit that long one for like 70 yards early in the game. Michigan State ran pretty well against them. That might be an exception, but after that long one, Michigan State had a lot of run plays that were not so great. I think Michigan State's comeback was all through the air. Anyway, Arizona State, last year, Michigan State couldn't run the ball against Arizona State's 30. So, against the 30, it'll be a new challenge for the offensive linemen, the blockers, and the motioning H guys and the tight ends, and the blocking back on a quarterback keeper to know your landmarks, find your target, and put a hat on somebody, right? Got to block somebody. So it looks different when it's a 30. That's the next test. And the question was, should we expect having difficulty running the ball? That is a great question. That is the question going into the week. Should you expect it? I would hope not. I would hope Michigan State could go out and run for 150 yards plus. 150 is like a good, grade B day. And they should be able to do that. I'm going to watch more, and I'll have a more concrete forecast on that in the days ahead. Scott Allen from Guam, the unofficial Alumni Association, checking in. The unofficial Alumni Association of Guam. That's great. Stay safe in Guam. I like Guam. We like Guam. Seth Foreman at Jeff to the ASU center that was wreaking havoc on Higbee graduate. The nose guard. I think he went pro early. I'll bet Konadike knows that. Or was he a senior? He's gone. Either way, anyway you slice it, I'm almost positive he's gone. Let's see here. I've lost my place here a little bit. I'll go back to the SpartanMag mailbag. All right. Question number 4. I've lost count now. What time is it? 9:19 as we record this. About 11 minutes left. Stephen 81 out of Lansing, Michigan. Which offensive lineman stood out? Again, I'm still going over it. D'Antonio today, or last night, Sunday night in the teleconference, when asked about the offensive line, the first name he mentioned was Luke Campbell. Then he mentioned 3 or 4 other guys. Sometimes he'll say somebody, and then he doesn't want to slide anybody, so he'll list everybody, and he end up with really a quote that doesn't carry much weight because he's named everybody. But the first person he named was Luke Campbell, and I thought that was noteworthy because Luke Campbell, last year, midway through the year, got a little dinged up or whatever, vanished from the playing group. I'm not sure what was going on there, but he was kind of making a comeback this year. Started against, I don't know if he started or not, ended up playing more snaps than Higbee did in the opener, and was just, like all the guys, was kind of room temperature, if not worse. He came back, played well. D'Antonio mentioned him first. That was noteworthy. That is good. That's an experienced guy with about 20 career starts. For him to get a little bit of traction really bodes well for the offensive line and what they're trying to solidify there. That's a good sign. I've seen Campbell on a few of the plays that I've watched do some good things. Matt Carrick is the guy that when I went back over it, did some good things. The second play of the game when Eli Collins got loose for that 23-yard run or whatever it was, Carrick going against McCabe. McCabe had a big game. He's a redshirt freshman, 290. He's going to be a good defensive tackle in the MAC for years to come. Carrick gets into him, two-gapping. McCabe gets into Carrick, two-gapping. And Carrick, at 6'4", what is Carrick? 6'4", 332, withstands that two-gap really well. A lot of times when an offensive lineman is looking to zone block, he gets two-gapped, especially if it's a team that does a two-gapping and one-gapping, you don't know on a given play as an offensive lineman what they're going to do. So if you're moving in a zone and you're expecting one-gapping and instead they get right into you in two-gap, meaning that they can go either side of you, they're going to try to play you and control you and take either side of you. A lot of times when a defensive lineman two-gaps an offensive lineman, the offensive lineman more than 50% of the time gets knocked back. The D lineman usually wins that. And especially if it's big D lineman like in Alabama or Iowa. Iowa two gaps out of 4 defensive linemen. Perlis used to do it back in the old days too. So Carrick withstood that two-gap bull. It's not a bull rush. It's just he's into him. Withstood that and steered him out and helped open the right side of the line. And Eli Collins went through there for 22 yards. That was one of the big blocks on that play. Carrick throughout the day. There was a play, pass protection early on when Michigan State had that run going when he looked pretty good. Let's see. He moved his feet really well on pass protection. I think it was the 3rd and 11 completion to Cody White. That was the second touchdown drive. I think that might have been a blitz. Cover 3, they drop deep. Cody White runs a comeback in about 15 yards because that cover 3 is dropping deep. Blitz, cover 3, just like Michigan State used to be. Anyway, Carrick, good pass protection on that particular play. So that would be one offensive lineman. I'm not going to say he stood out, but in start number 2 for Matt Carrick, looking more like a bona fide Big Ten starter, relaxed, playing pretty solidly. Let's see. I don't want to miss anybody here. What are Arizona State's strengths to deal with? Weaknesses we can expose. Marcus Nevada. I'm still looking into that, Marcus. Strengths, the little running back, Benjamin, turned a little flare pass into like a 70-yarder last week and broke it open when Sacramento State was hanging with them. He's a running back, had a pretty good day against Michigan State last year. But Arizona State's weaknesses, offensive line. They've had injuries there. An injury to a left tackle. They moved the center out there. They're starting a true center that doesn't have much of a background as a center. He's been struggling. So that's a weakness for Arizona State that matches up directly with the Michigan State strength, the defensive front. And that defensive front is not just a strength for Michigan State. That might be the best defensive front in the Big Ten, one of the best in the country. So Arizona State, weakness for strength. Arizona State's going to have trouble, I would imagine, getting an offensive rhythm going because I think that backfield could get ransacked on a regular basis. It'll be up to Arizona State to move the ball out quickly with a freshman quarterback who has a lot of speed. A lot of speed. He's a skinny little guy, but a lot of speed. I mean, not Kyler Murray speed, but close. I mean, he can run. And he threw for like 280 last week and over 300, I think, in the opener. There's a lot of true freshmen doing some good things around the country. He's one of them. So for him, I would imagine Michigan State can get a rush on him, but he's not a guy that you're going to want to chase into a play. So Michigan State, philosophically over the years against a guy like that, like Denard Robinson, they'll want to beat blockers, but put a fence around him and make sure you don't run past him and chase him into a play. So Michigan State's going to win up front and put a fence around him. From there, how creative can Arizona State get? Michigan State was controlling that game last year, the whole game, not cashing in enough in the red zone. And then Arizona State makes 2 plays late, a deep one where David Dowell kind of misjudged one, got in scoring position. They cashed it in. So you can bottle up that offense all night, but you need to be scoring more than 13 on your offense. And from what we saw this week, I would think Michigan State's in position should be able to do that. Hayden Vischer asking about Simmons. Seth Foreman says he likes the format of the live chat. Thanks, Seth. Scilacci in Italy. Scilacci. I'm thinking like Salvador Scilacci. It's probably like that, right? You're right. He's saying, come on, Pope. I appreciate it, Byron. Scilacci. You're right. I choked on that. I was pausing the whole time because I'm trying to think who the soccer player was for Italy back in 1990. Salvador Scilacci. Who had a hairline, ugly one like mine. He used to come in looking like Phil Collins. And he was a striker. He would score late. Salvador Scilacci, right? Is that the way you are? Scilacci. You're saying Scilacci. Scilacci. So anyway, I was thinking Scilacci. That's why I was saying, is it spelled the same as Scilacci? That's why. Those of you that are bored with that conversation, I appreciate you soldiering through. All right, Seth Foreman. Will the fullback Rosenthal be used more as an H-back? We haven't seen Rosenthal on the field much this year. He played a lot in the bowl game. 6'2", walk-on. I think he's from Chicagoland. Haven't seen him much. And you know how things are. You can't really ask, hey, is so-and-so injured? Because they're not going to say. So I'm not sure what his immediate future is going to be. Brett Goldberg. What's the scoop with A.J. Arcuri and Cole Chewins? Cole Chewins' back problems. Let's see. Did someone tell me something about him lately? I haven't heard. A.J. Arcuri. I heard that he was available for the game, and then he did play. Played field goal protection, and then got into the game late in the game and limped off the field. He kind of tweaked it. It looked to me like it was an ankle. And let me see, someone was asking about it. Oh, that was the follow-up question for Steven81 asked about Arcuri over at SpartanMag.com. Anyway, we were talking about that in the press box as the game was going on, Paul Konadike and I and Ricardo Cooney. And I was like, man, why are they playing A.J. Arcuri? Because he was available, not completely, just getting over that injury. So he was just getting over that injury. You put him out there for a couple of plays. Now, I understand A.J. Arcuri is a guy that has not played much in his career. He only had 22 snaps of real playing time prior to this year. He won the left tackle starting job, got hurt at the end of camp, did not play in the opener. That caused Jarvis to go out and play left tackle. So Michigan State is blowing out Western Michigan. They put our Curry in, probably to get him some experience. Because like I said, he only had like 22 snaps of career playing time. I understand that part of it. But with a guy just coming off an injury, you're tempting fate for him to retweak it. And he hurt it. You can see he was in pain and he limped off. They're not going to say how much he tweaked it or what percentage it is. But we've all watched football enough to know that when someone comes back from an injury and they tweak it again, sometimes it can send them back another couple of weeks. I don't know. They always say, well, we don't want to speculate. You know how announcers say that? Well, I'm not afraid to speculate. I'm going to speculate that might have put him back a little bit. And when you're up by 4 touchdowns, I'm not sure that was the right thing to do. That being said, they probably just wanted to get him experience. But our Curry was coming back, inching his way back, available to play, didn't start. Just don't know why you play him in mop-up time. Staying with the mailbag, JMA11 from Cincinnati says, after 2 games, Larice Nelson versus CJ Hayes, who would you like to see get the most reps and why? Okay, so you saw CJ Hayes do some things in that game. CJ Hayes, popular subject here in today's SpartanMag live chat room. And Larice Nelson didn't play much. A little bit of a surprise. Nelson has had some good games here and there. He did play early. He went in motion on an Auburn-style counter. You know, faking it to they're running zone, the zone read, faking it to the fly sweep guy back to the tailback. Left guard pulling. Connor Hayward lost 2 yards on that one. So you had Luke Campbell was pulling as a left guard on the counter out to the right, and Jarvis's feet weren't quite right. Jarvis needs to close that. When the left guard pulls, it creates a vacancy right here. His footwork were not correct to block back and seal that vacancy. So the defensive end, number 1, Fayad, penetrated that gap and tackled Hayward before he could get started. But Larice Nelson was on the field for that play. I don't know if he played much other than that. CJ Hayes, of course, started. But here's the thing. They're both wide receivers, but they played different positions. Larice Nelson is almost exclusively, I'm pretty sure all he does is inside receiver, slot receiver. You know, getting in those little tight areas and doing his thing in there. CJ Hayes, more of an X, more of a split end, a wider wide out. So they're not the same position. If Larice Nelson were to play more, then you have White and Darrell Stewart and Nelson. Darrell Stewart, you may notice, was almost exclusively a slot receiver, and I think that's where he's been at his best in the past. Last year when Michigan State had so many injuries at the wide receiver positions, you had Cody White going down, you had Felton Davis going down, you had, CJ Hayes got injured, Larice Nelson got injured, Darrell Stewart got injured. They were all getting injured. 8 of them did. Cam Chambers got hurt. While that was going on, there were times when Darrell Stewart was playing through pain, playing hurt, not hurt to the point where he shouldn't be on the field. But, if you're back at 80%, you can go. They need you, so you go. That's the way football is. Not that I would know at that level, but you've heard that before. And when Darrell Stewart came back last year, he's experienced enough that he can play all the different wide receiver positions. Even if he's playing wide out, that's not his best position. He's better in the slot in the middle, reading defenses, making little short accelerations into some open areas like he did last weekend. The deep post was from the slot position. The first play of the game was from the slot because you had CJ Hayes out wide, and he ran that deep corner route on that one. He is a slot receiver. He's very good at it. If Larice Nelson played more, that means you'd be bumping Darrell Stewart out to a wider position as a number 1 receiver, widest. And he can do it, but that's not where he's at his best. Is Larice Nelson so good to bump Darrell Stewart out of there? I don't think so. I think that's Darrell Stewart's position. And Larice Nelson and CJ Hayes, they play the same position, but they're not quite apples to apples. Let's see here. I hope I didn't offend anybody talking soccer. Hope you guys are okay with that. Tangent. By the way, I was watching a soccer game a couple days ago. I don't watch a lot of soccer, but I appreciate it. And it occurs to me, there was a match taking place. I think it was USA versus Mexico friendly. And it just looked so pleasing to the eye, just that grass and the width of the television screens. And I've said it before that the And the advent of HD television, and not only HD televisions, but widescreen televisions. I'm an old guy, so I remember like the square screens. You remember widescreen TVs and HD TVs have helped soccer more than any other sport, in my opinion. Not that soccer needed help worldwide, but HD. It's cool to watch baseball and hockey and football on it, but it completely changed soccer. Watching it, because now instead of watching it here, you're watching a wider field. And of course, the clarity is nice. I mean, back in the old days, remember 1984 World Cup or even 94? Watching on a little you can only see like 3 players at a time. Soccer was like unwatchable on TV back then, in my opinion. But now it's like, I'm not the biggest soccer guy, but gosh, it's helped that sport a lot. We know that soccer's had a boom in the United States, but there was a boom in player participation back in the 70s and 80s, and it never got the traction until, I'm telling you, HD television. That's my theory, and I'm sticking to it on that. Let's see. What else do we have here? Robert Baroa. Can I order the hard copy of Spartan Magazine? Taps. Spartan Magazine doesn't exist anymore, unfortunately, the print version. By the way, right here, I'm going to have an old copy of a cover here. I think we'll move it over there one of these days. Over here to the right of the bookcase. Thinking about that or something else. But the hard copy of the magazine lasted from 91 until like 2017. And we discontinued it to focus on the website. So the hard copy of the magazine does not exist anymore. I have some saved. Like, you're asking about like a current one. We don't do current ones anymore. I still have stacks and stacks of the issue of Spartan Magazine after the 2000 National Championship with Mateen Cleaves on the cover. Might have to try those out sometime. Let's see, what do we have? We're 5 minutes over. We're about ready to wrap up. We'll go through these real quickly. Brian V. Impressions on Collins and Ant Williams. Collins, I've been saying it for a long time that I thought he was the best pure running back of all the candidates. And then you saw it this week. He didn't play last year. Ladarius Jefferson played in front of him as a freshman because Ladarius could handle pass protection. Somebody asked me on the mailbag also. Let's see who it was. I don't know if I can find it. I want to give them credit for asking the question. Someone asked about Eli Collins's, here it is, Sherlock H. from Sterling Heights. He says, how good do you think Elijah Collins can be? Is he good at picking up the blitz? That was his weakness. Pass protection was a big weakness for him. Elijah Collins pointed out in high school that's something he never, ever had to do because he was getting the ball. Ladarius Jefferson was a quarterback in high school. He didn't have to do it either, but maybe he had a better mental construct of what pass protection needs to be because he's a former quarterback. Also, Ladarius Jefferson was pretty big, pretty strong, could do it. That's the main reason Ladarius Jefferson played ahead of Elijah Collins last year. But now that Elijah Collins obviously has become more solvent in that area, he can play more, and now you see the pure running talent that he has. I've said over and over and over, Elijah Collins was a guy that was offered a scholarship to play running back at Wisconsin. If you're offered to play running back at Wisconsin, you're an out-of-state kid. They don't offer just anybody. That spoke well to his ability. I thought his film was good. He had good film in high school on defense. He was a hitter, linebacker, contact player, athlete, tough, strong. I thought he should have been ranked higher. 3-star. I thought he looked good. Then last year, didn't play much. And I questioned my forecast on that a little bit, but now I'm feeling better about it, obviously. How good can he be? He can be like one of these 1,300-yard MSU tailbacks. If he keeps doing that and he stays and he's durable. What I liked on that first play when he gained 24 yards is on that one, Luke Campbell had a tough blocking assignment. Western Michigan had a quick defensive tackle, number 8. Quick. Crossed his face on a slant, and Luke Campbell didn't get all of them, just got enough of them, but the guy penetrated, didn't get enough of them. Luke Campbell did not grade out positively on that play. Eli Collins gets it, sees that guy, sidesteps him. A little sidestep there. Jefferson and Hayward may never get by that guy. Sidesteps to the daylight, vision to the daylight, and a little more vision to get there. And then the center, Matt Allen, was out on a linebacker. And the linebacker, you couldn't get all of them because by that time Eli's breaking. And the linebacker was going after Collins and another little sidestep juke. So it was like sidestep, vision, another sidestep, and then the acceleration. Hayward and Jefferson can't do that. No running backs they had last year could do that. L.J. Scott could do that once in a while, maybe. Maybe not as good as that. But Lewerke liked the vision that Collins had. And just right off the bat, vision, jump cut, acceleration, puts some juice into the offense. Anthony Williams and Brian V says, you see those two developing as a 1-2 punch going forward. Hayward getting some looks in the slot going forward. Hayward played in the slot. And on that third down conversion, double slants, they had a different concept over on the tight bunch over here. I don't know what they did. They might have run a snag over here and double slants over there. And Hayward was the slot. The inside receiver went to him, caught it, first down. So the good thing about that is when you have Hayward with the ability to catch passes and his ability to pick up the blitz like he did on that pass to Cody White, it can be used to your advantage this way. Also, I'll mention that in a second. But firstly, if it's 2nd and 8 and you're throwing the ball and you bring Connor Hayward in, you don't want to get into a situation where anytime you bring in Connor Hayward, it's a pass because his pass protection is good, his hands are good. You're taking Collins out. Collins still might be suspect in pass protection. You don't want to be that much of a tell, so you're gonna have to throw the ball with Collins in there quite a bit just to break tendency if you can. But if he gets beat, you might have a negative play. Is it worth it to stay on tendency because you have to? That's one of the beautiful things about this sport. Hayward, personnel groups. It's 3rd and 3. Michigan State has Hayward in there. They have Gillison in there. So it's 11 personnel, a running back and a tight end, and 3 receivers. So that's kind of Michigan State's base personnel group is 11, usually Collins and usually Dotson. But if you're the defense, it's 3rd and 3. They have Hayward in there and a tight end. What are you going to do on defense? It's 3rd and 3. It might be 4-down territory. You have to stay base. If you're a 4-3 team with 4 defensive backs, you stay 4-3. Western Michigan's a 4-3 team. They stayed 4-3 because they don't know. Michigan State might come to the line with those people with the tight end tight to the offensive line and a setback and pistol, and they might run downhill. So you can't afford to go nickel. If you go nickel, that's not the best way to play defense against something like that, and you're more of a chance to give up those 3 yards. Michigan State goes with those guys, but they went. Was that the one on the slant? I can't remember if he was it. It would have had been empty. They went empty one other time and threw a bubble. So Michigan State's in there with a tailback and a tight end, and they all split out, and Michigan State goes empty out of that. So now they're empty, and Western's got 3 linebackers on the field, 4 defensive backs. If they keep 1 safety deep, linebackers have to cover these guys. Usually you're not going to have linebackers go press tight because they don't want Hayward or Gillison to just run right by them and go deep. So a linebacker is going to play off just because they're going to play a cushion because they're stuck. They're caught with 3 linebackers against 5 wide receivers. Not all of them can run like Felton Davis, but it's still uncomfortable for a linebacker. So a linebacker is going to give Connor Hayward a cushion, run a slant, 3rd and 3, pitch and catch. Michigan State created an open, free release, open receiver just on personnel, just by going with those 5 and playing it. So Hayward, don't quit on Hayward. He still has some value for sure. Let me see here, and you can bet he's going to be even more now. But he's been driven all along. But is he hitting his ceiling? I don't know. Let's see, David Chaffin before we sign off here. This is Sherlock H. No shice, Sherlock. No, we like Sherlock from Sterling Heights. My question on the board was good. How good do you think Elijah Collins can be? I kind of went over that. Matt Carrick seemed to play very well. Tom Kelly says, do you think he will play over Higbee at right guard going forward? I think so. Higbee came in later in the second quarter, played later, but it looks like that's Carrick's job. And Higbee, I think, can be a solid utility guy playing a handful of positions at various positions, a handful of snaps at various positions. I don't know if he's an every down grinder like they need. That's Tom from Okemos Road in Lake Lansing, Tom Kelly. Okemos Road in Lake Lansing. I've been over there a few times. Let's see. Seth Foreman. Welch is the fastest guy on the team. Who is the strongest? Jarvis, maybe? That's a good question. Panashuk? Somebody benches 500, somebody's talking about. I know that that's not as rare as it used to be. But that's a good question. I'm going to ask around. Lynn Tirico, my old friend, she says, with a win on Saturday, Coach D will break Duffy Doherty's record. How do you think this will affect the team? I know Coach D will try to downplay it. You're right, he will downplay it, and Coach D, D'Antonio, is giving more credit to other people that have helped him along. I thought D'Antonio had a real good comment last night on the teleconference, talking about the great things Duffy Doherty did in terms of forwarding and championing equal opportunity and civil rights. And here's a great book about it by our friend Tom Shanahan, Ray of Light. Great book. Pick it up. Look for it online, available on Amazon. He's a good friend of ours. And he's going to be covering, he's covered some stuff for us in the past. He'll be covering something soon, basketball-wise. More information on that later. But D'Antonio really paying homage to Doherty on that topic, and I thought that was great last night. And I would suggest that he continues to do that when he breaks it, and to set people straight like Tim Brando, Shanahan did via Twitter, and Brando was very open to being educated on that. And a lot of people, Shanahan believes, including in the South, want to believe that Bear Bryant had his heart and mind in the right direction and is on the correct side of history and all that stuff. Shanahan has information that differs on that. Doherty, where are you going, Comparoni? Doherty is on the right side of history on all those things. There's a signature right there. All right. Corey Robinson saying the strongest guy would be Jarvis or Panashuk. Good job, Corey. I think you're right. Thanks for the chat. We're going to wrap this up. I'll go through here real quick. Okay, that's about it. Hayward motion out on the play where they threw it. There you go. Thanks, Sam. I think you're right. I think he did motion out on that. Yes. I'm trying to think, because I know the second time they did that and they threw a bubble, it was just a straight 5 receiver empty formation. And I thought to myself, that's the first time they've done that with Gillison and Hayward. And then I'm thinking to myself, well, wait a minute, on the third down conversion, it was the same personnel and he ran a slant. It must have been empty. But what you said, Sam, makes perfect sense. He began as a running back, motioned out, and that makes perfect sense. All right, that's going to wrap it up. We went 15 minutes long again. I'm long-winded that way, but we were able to do. Sam Martin says, did I notice Isaiah playing fullback on the goal line? Yeah, that triple stack eye, that old Morris Watts formation that he used to have. He even took that with him to LSU when he was there, and then he came back at the end of the Saban era at 99. Yeah, Jacob Isaiah getting on the field and blocked a linebacker and put a pretty good charge into him. Pretty good, looked good. And Khalifa came in and played left tight end on the next time. The first time, Blake Buter played left tight end on the first triple stack eye play touchdown. Second time was Khalifa. So Khalifa and Isaiah obviously knocking on the door for the playing group, got on the field, got a taste of it. So they're kind of the next men up. And if Arcuri and Chewins remain injured, then Khalifa is just a tweak away from having to get in there. I'm not saying he's ready, but that showed us as observers that those guys are gaining more trust, and they need that from them. All right, that's going to wrap it up. Somebody had a funny thing about Buter. Who was it? Somebody asked me if Buter is going to be a candidate for the Outland or something funny like that. Buter, I think he's on scholarship now, but Buter, he was one guy that had some good moments, I thought, in the first game, and he has carved out a good role, and he's an important player in this team. Buter, I remember seeing him at camp here and thinking, that guy, he's got a chance. Who is that guy? To the point where I remembered him as his team went to the state title game. Was he at Catholic Central or De La Salle? They played against Jordan Reed. Jordan Reed, Michigan State's right tackle for Cass Tech. Cass Tech played in the state title game against Buter, and Jordan Reed matched up against Buter all night. And when we were doing our commitment analysis, I mentioned that it was good to see Jordan Reed going against a guy that I said was a good quality MAC level lineman. And Buter was playing both ways. He played defensive line. So I think I might have mentioned that in the top 25 on the 25th, that he showed well against Buter, whom was not ranked, but I said was a really good test. Buter, I even gave consideration to be in the top 25. I think I even mentioned him in the honorable mention that year. I don't know if we didn't do a top 25 in the 25th last year. It's a lot of work to do it right, and I think subscribers would rather that. When I did that in the old days, doing the top 25 and the 25th, I was spending so much time on it that I wasn't writing as many bowl preview stories. So what would you rather have, bowl preview stories and podcasts or that top 25? I don't know. I might just have some opinions on some players without doing a 25. Anyway, that's it. Appreciate everybody checking in on us, staying up a little bit late with us on Monday night SpartanMag Live. We will be back next Monday night to talk about Michigan State's game against Arizona State and look ahead to Michigan State's trip to Evanston, Illinois to play the Northwestern Wildcats. That's going to be a big one. Maybe not as difficult as it looked a month ago, but we will see what Northwestern puts on the field this weekend as the 2019 college football season hits full steam. Again, thanks for joining us. My name is Jim Comparoni. Go check out SpartanMag.com. You've been watching SpartanMag Live here on YouTube. Check out SpartanMag.com. Good night, everybody.